My name is Robert Flor, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the country of Venezuela. Venezuela is located in north-central South America and has a population of approximately 27 million people. Their large resources are oil, natural gas, and hydroelectric power. For a matter of fact, hydroelectric power provides 24% of the entire nation's energy needs and approximately 90% of all their electricity, which makes them very electrically independent of foreign countries on oil and coal. Now, of the major resources, oil is the biggest one. For a matter of fact, it's the basis of their economy. It represents 80% of their exports, 50% of their government revenue, and 1/3 of their entire GDP. Now, because so much of their economy is based on oil, it creates very much a boom and bust economy with the changes in oil prices globally. So let's talk a little bit about their history, and we can kind of better understand where we expect Venezuela to be in the next couple of years. So it was founded in 1498 by Columbus, colonized by Spain in 1521, and gained independence in 1821, where then they became part of the larger country, Gran Colombia, which then broke apart into pieces in 1830. So Venezuela, as you know it, has been an independent country since 1830. Now that being said, from 1830 to now, you can't find a 20-year period of internal peace with the country. Now granted, I'm not talking about any foreign wars. For a matter of fact, they haven't fought a war since 1830. But internally, you can't find peace. There's been military coup after military coup after political upheaval. So, to give you an example of that, at one point, one of their presidents was a novelist. Even the president today, President Chavez, participated and organized a coup in 1992, only to experience an attempted overthrow in 2002, where he was kicked out of power for about 48 hours. So, regionally, the area is very politically unstable, but very militarily militarily stable. That said, their economy is so much boom and bust that they have this problem, and it's known as Dutch disease. What happens is that the government invests a great deal of their income in the major source of their income within the oil industry. They fail to support agriculture, they fail to support infrastructure, and they fail to support industry. Well, when the cash cow doesn't pay out as much as they'd hoped for, it trickles down, and the already underprivileged industries fail within there. So that sets up some of the numbers that we see today. Currently, they're at about 60% of their population is poor, 10% is unemployed, and they're experiencing about 25.9% inflation, and growing. Now, those numbers may sound deplorable, but they're actually a lot better than they have been. For a matter of fact, President Chavez has done a very good job in boosting his economy recently. And in order to do that, he's had to create a niche political environment. He's what he refers to as a Bolivian left-wing socialist revolutionary, where he is looking to prop up the poor with infrastructure, agriculture, and other investments via the oil industry. Well, that all makes sense, but he's kind of doing about it in a weird way. Let me give you a brief history of oil within the country, and we can talk about how he's using PdVSA, the government-run organization, the government-run oil company, to facilitate those needs. So, Venezuela was a founding member of OPEC. Now, in 1972, there was the oil embargo on the United States from the Middle Eastern OPEC members for supporting Israel. Well, Venezuela continued to support the United States by giving us oil. And, for a matter of fact, it's always done so. They supported us during World War II, and they've always been there. For a matter of fact, we represent, even to this day, 65% of their exported oil. So, that brings us up to 1976, when Venezuela first nationalized their oil fields. Now, that was almost to be expected, but in 1992, they went backwards on that and started taking foreign investments in minority holdings, which doesn't make sense when you think about it, because they went backwards in 2006 and renationalized those oil fields, going from 40 to 60% holdings. Now, that creates a rather uninviting investment environment for foreign countries to come in. And for a matter of fact, That, with a slight military border workup with Colombia over a terrorist invasion within Colombia, pretty much made the Royal Bank of Scotland, a large world funder, to withdraw a $5 billion loan that they had given to Venezuela. And that allowed President Chavez a unique niche, once again, within his political ideals. He then began talking about the denouncing of capitalism, and inherently the United States got dragged into that. So he's using some of the circumstances within his own country to facilitate his own political ideals. But he's actually using PdVSA as the end-all be-all social program. And here's how. So in 2002, when he went to OPEC, when President Chavez went to OPEC and was like, hey, you guys are making more oil than you're supposed to, you're making more money than you're supposed to, we need better self-regulation within the organization, he then had to come back home to PdVSA and talk the talk and walk the walk. Well, they didn't like the talk he was bringing, so they organized a large strike of about 17,000 members. Well, 2 months later, that strike continued, and President Chavez fired all 17,000 plus of those workers and removed the board and replaced everybody within the organization with people that are aligned with his ideals. As a matter of fact, this has kind of continued. In 2006, he regulated or dictated that PdVSA should now invest 10% of their revenue back into the country's infrastructure, social programs, and that. And that's not just them being philanthropists. For a matter of fact, PdVSA in 2005 got grouped into such a large piece of the economy that they almost created their own little wing. Now PdVSA is in charge of not only oil and natural gas, but gold, uranium, agriculture, infrastructure, pretty much you name it, it's PdVSA operating within the government. And so President Chavez has been using this this government entity to facilitate these his social ideals. Now, would you expect there to be lots of border disputes and military upheavals and wars within that? Yes, you would, but there are none. And granted, there's a lot of political upheaval within the country, but I think they finally have nailed down a political party that they like. Or should I say it's been crammed down their throats. In 2008, President Chavez removed his political his terms of election, and now he is pretty much the president for life. So we shall see how this all plays out in the next couple of years with Latin America, the United States. But ultimately, I think that he's going to continue to keep producing. I think he's going to continue to look for global outlets for this money and this revenue. And he's going to continue to supply the United States indefinitely. And this is all just a bunch of talk to support his political ideals. But we'll have to wait 20 years and see. Thanks for watching.